You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZWLP Conroe and 106.1 KZCCLP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Legal Connection with Toni Lynn Collins and Cheryl Ellsworth Jahani. Toni and I are two Montgomery County, we're Texas attorneys, but we practice in Montgomery County, Harris County. We practice all over the state, really, but we're here in Montgomery County with Lone Star Radio, and we are bringing to you every Tuesday from 12 to 1 p.m. the Legal Connection, and it's where we can connect with you. We'll answer your legal questions. We know that anytime you're confronted with a legal situation, it can be overwhelming and frightening, really, sometimes. And so Toni and I are here to answer your questions, and we're also practicing attorneys. And so you can reach out to us at questions at legalconnectionshow.com. We have a website that is www.legalconnectionshow.com. And we also have a live voicemail, 281-529-5862. And you can like us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Legal Connection Show. And so we are here. We've been talking about juvenile law, and today is going to be our third part series, and the last one, I believe, on juvenile law. But I want to talk to you a little bit about next week. We're going to have a special guest, and his name is Simon Sequeira, and he is the president of Restore Affordable Water. Restore Affordable Water is a registered 501c4. It's an advocacy organization, and it's a group of Montgomery County residents, business owners, and community leaders who are now demanding truth, transparency, and accountability from the Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District. You can read more about RAW before our show next time, but you can read more about RAW at www.restoreaffordablewater.com /. But, you know, as some of you may know, water is the new gold, some people say. And so we want to help you in the community and answer your legal questions and also address your legal concerns. And so we feel like part of that is having Mr. Sequeira on our show next week. And we'll look forward to hearing from him and what RAW, or Restore Affordable Water, is all about. So we will be right back after the break, and we're going to talk about juvenile law, and it's our third part in a three-part series. We'll be right back.
Relax with a cup of joe or your favorite drink for the Conroe Lake Conroe Chamber of Commerce Chamber Chat. The show airs on the first Tuesday of the month at 11 a.m. on Lone Star Community Radio. Join hosts Courtney Galley and Brian Bondi as they chat about the Chamber's events and programs for the month and invite Chamber members into the studio to talk about their upcoming events and businesses. Learn about your Chamber with Chamber Chat every first Tuesday at 11 a.m.
A Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show, with monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776 to take your first step into the radio world.
And welcome back to the Legal Connection with Toni and Cheryl. We are here today talking about juvenile law, children in the law, your child in the law, And so, Toni, what are we going to talk about first?
We're going to talk about children and marriage. I get so many listener questions about this, oddly, from kids. Kids want to get married. We're also going to talk about what happens. We're going to finish up our segment on when your child breaks the law, what happens. And then if it's a more severe crime, your child and what happens in juvenile court. Because I think that's, it might be a wake-up call to some kids that, the capital sins are kind of enticing them, the capital sins being all those things that that sort of trigger or tempt you to commit worse sins and crimes, and they would be, gluttony and sloth and greed and envy and, all those the 7 deadly sins are the capital sins. So, and we all have them. And if the devil tempts you and are your kid, and we're talking to you kids if you're listening, then this is where it's all is not lost. These are some of the things that you need to know. Now, so children and marriage, just a big topic, surprisingly. Now, if there's anything in the world that a child does not need, it is to be married.
I agree with that.
A happy marriage is one of life's greatest pleasures, but even for adults, it's not an easy thing to achieve unless you're really mature. Maturity is a necessary ingredient for children. Our marriage can be disastrous, and we know that.
Right.
And it's really hard to grow up with another person and while you're still children, and it can be done. I think Loretta Lynn may have done it.
Well, not successfully, did she? I think she...
I've read her autobiography. I think I watched The Coal Miner's Daughter.
Me too. I'm proud to be a coal.
We all know some teenagers that have gotten married young, and some have lasted, but most have not. But that being said, if it happens, it happens. Okay, so just a little side note is it often interrupts or ends a child's education, resulting in a lifelong limitation of job opportunities.
That is absolutely true. I really like what you said about how it's hard to grow up. It's hard enough to grow up, much less grow up with another person. But then to limit your entire life by limiting your
you need to grow, you need to develop, you
right.
need to spread your wings yourself. And then just to complicate issues, these young couples are having children when they're only children themselves. And,
right.
It's been so glorified on TV, 15 and pregnant and all that. And I remember 15. And I also remember when I got married at 25 and started having kids at 27, that was still too young for me.
Right.
I still had not sowed, I don't want to say sowed my wild oats because I'm just not that wild of a person.
Right.
But there were still so many things that I'd not accomplished, and I really needed to focus on me to even be where I am today. And I could not have done that if I had been so much younger. It's just really hard. So parents, if you can, keep an eye on your kids, don't let them be getting out at night. Don't, just give them all the love you can
Right.
to be there for them. But if that doesn't work out, one of the big questions I always get is, how old must a person be in Texas to get married? And we talked about this a little bit on the last show, but I'm going to see if Ethan was paying attention. Ethan, what do you remember the age?
No.
Okay. You were not paying attention last week. Okay. I think you're probably over 18, so you're probably out of the gray area. But he or she must be 18 years old. And if a child is at least 14, but not yet 18, that person may marry with the written consent of a parent, a court-appointed managing conservator, or a legal guardian. A person of any age under 18 may marry if a judge, after a hearing, consents to the marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So really 18 is the target age, but as young as 14.
Well, what I have also learned is that judges will very rarely grant permission for a juvenile to marry if they're under 16. 16 to 18, it's fairly common that the judge will go ahead and grant permission. But and it used to be 14 to 16. That was kind of the same situation, but not anymore.
But if you think back, just from a biblical standpoint, Mary was 13 when the Holy Spirit, she conceived through the Holy Spirit. Now, because those were on the old days. Those are the really old days, like 2,000 years ago. I had represented many, many clients who got charged with aggravated sexual assault because they were 19 and they were having sex with their 15-year-old girlfriends.
Why aggravated then? Why not just-
Because they're under 17.
Oh.
And there's more than a 3-year difference. If it's less than 3 years, then that's your defense.
Mm-hmm.
But that age difference between 15 and 19 is significant
Mm-hmm.
because 15-year-old girls are being little Lolitas, many of them, and the 19-year-old boys are thinking they're still thinking they're 15. They're not thinking anything
Right.
of it. I'm
Right.
a teenager.
It's not weird.
So
We're the same age.
many get in trouble, and the prosecutors have no problem bringing charges. And then they're charged if you're 19 as an adult because you're over 18, over
Right.
17 in
Right.
Texas. But just be really careful, teenagers. And this is a really, really serious thing. And I know we may have talked about this on some other shows, but on the internet is so prevalent that girls are advertising out there. They want to date. They think it's kind of fun. They want shoes from the mall, whatever it may be. They want to see who they can meet, and they go out there and they advertise that they're 18, and they're not even supposed to be on these websites unless they're 18.
Right.
And they're looking cute and hot.
And 24. And
And-
they're looking 22.
And they're saying they are.
That's right.
And these guys that are up to 24 are saying, let's go out. And guess what? Dad's waiting at the door when girl's trying to crawl through her bedroom window and meet, Prince Charming that she thinks she knows, and it's really just some predator. Or it could just be a 19-year-old kid that doesn't know that this girl's really 13. So parents and 13, 14, anybody that might be listening at that age, do not do that. Do not dupe the older guy.
Yeah.
And parents, keep a very, very close watch on your kids and their internet use, because I have represented a number of 19, 20, and 21-year-old guys that simply had no idea that these little Lolitas were advertising that they were 18, and they weren't. They looked, the things that these girls were posting were disgusting. I mean, they were like, most of them were half-dressed, if dressed, and all kind of foul language and stuff, trying to lure these guys in, and it was working. And
That's terrible.
yeah, it was really, really bad. And it's not a defense. The prosecutors don't care. They're like, you should have known.
Right.
And it's just crazy. These girls do not look like they're as young as they are. Okay. Now, next question that we had is, what is required to obtain a marriage license if a child is under 18 but over 14 and his parents consent to the marriage? What do you think?
What is required of the parents' consent? Gosh, I don't know. Birth certificate.
Close, pretty close. There's actually a form in the county clerk's office that they provide a form which the parent, managing conservator, or guardian of the child must sign before a county clerk of the state of Texas. They have to actually be there with their child and sign it.
Okay.
And they're going to be asking for IDs.
So
and
it's
that kind of thing.
parental signature.
Yes.
If they consent, then what's required is their signature.
They have to show up
on this
with the
form.
child, right?
Okay.
And the next question is, what if the parent lives in another state and can't come to Texas to sign such a consent if the person is before the county clerk? Well, and I'll go ahead and answer that one because I really didn't know what the answer was. I haven't had that situation come up before. The parent may sign and swear to the consent form before a person authorized to issue a marriage license in that state. So they have to go to that county clerk or the parish clerk or whatever in that particular state. Now, if a parent is ill or incapacitated, making an appearance before the county clerk is impossible, what then? Well, the parental consent form may be signed before a notary public, accompanied by a sworn affidavit of a doctor stating that the person is unable to appear. So they make it kind of difficult. You can't just walk up there and pretend. They're looking at some IDs and stuff. And don't be showing false IDs or having somebody show up like that, because that's fraud through the government. That's a felony. If you say that that's a false ID, that's a state offense. That's not just.
So listen to that.
Yeah, it's pretty serious. Now, a lot of people are just going to live together, whatever, but don't be trying that either, because if you're under 18 and you want to run away from your parents, and I've had this situation too, 16, 17-year-olds think they know everything. It's like, get a job, get some money, get a job, move out, if you think you know everything. And many times there's parental issues at the house that are severe, and they feel like they need to leave for protection. No.
That's not what you're talking about.
That's what CPS is for. That's
Right.
what Catholic Charities is for. That's what that you can reach out, but don't be running away. That's the last thing that people need to be doing. You can reach out to somebody that you trust, a teacher or what have you. But if you think you need to leave, the last thing you need to be doing is leaving with somebody that's older that you think is going to take care of you, or because you think it's fun. It's not fun. You need to be mature enough to take the responsible course of action and not just leave because you're mad because your parents said no. I see that quite a bit, and it's disturbing that parents really just it's out of their control of their hands, and a lot of prayer is involved. But when you've got some hard-headed kids that want to leave, or if you've got parents that maybe are exerting maybe too much discipline or in a way that that may not be the right way, it's just a difficult situation. So kids, reach out to the right people. Parents, there's a fine line between abusive discipline and discipline that you need that is just the right amount.
And so the right people for those kids to reach out to would be, you said Catholic Charities, or
their teachers at school.
Trusted individuals.
Yeah, a trusted individuals, even a trusted neighbor. But we're not talking about like that crazy movie where the neighbor was crazy. What was that movie? Was it Suburbia or with
Disturbia?
Disturbia.
Oh, what a creepy neighbor.
Yeah,
that's a good movie.
With the crazy
Shia
guy.
LaBeouf, with Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, and with the dad actor that really turned out being a pedophile. I forgot. Kevin Spacey, I think, or at least he was accused.
Was Kevin Spacey in Disturbia?
Well, it was
Kevin Spacey, but he wasn't in Disturbia.
He was in another movie that was very similar, and it was
really?
Yeah, and he played a bad dad that was having a situation with a younger neighbor.
Oh.
And then in real life he got charged. And as a defense attorney, if somebody's charged, it doesn't necessarily mean they're guilty.
Right, exactly.
But it seems like he may have admitted it.
He did.
It's pretty scary.
Yeah.
He was in Hollywood. Harvey Weinstein.
Well, I don't remember him admitting to pedophilia or anything, but he did admit that he was a homosexual man living as a straight man.
Yes.
I remember him saying that.
Yeah. Well,
so that's different than
it is
this perversion.
There's a taint
that we're talking about, right?
That makes me think of the old days of Roman Polanski and how they're lauding him now, and
I know
that was kind of misbehavior, like in a real way, in a really big way.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so is there any period of time after which a signed consent form is no longer valid? The answer is yes. It must be signed on the day of the application of the marriage license or within 30 days immediately preceding it. So this has to be a pretty serious thing and has to be done just like a marriage license.
So
really.
it's a 30-day signature.
Yeah, but it doesn't last forever. You can't just get it and then kind of sit on it. You have to kind of be serious about it.
Okay.
Now, if a child is under 18 and his parents won't consent to the marriage, this happens a lot. Is it possible for him to legally marry? After our discussion, what do you think?
I think yes. If he gets the consent of a judge, he could convince somebody. I mean, maybe he got someone pregnant or
under 18. I mean, 18 is pretty old. I mean, really, in the big scheme of things, by the time people are 17, they can be charged legally with a felony.
I know, Toni.
They can go to war. They can.
Right.
There's so many things. Of course, they can't drink anymore, but 18 is.
Well, when we were young, they could at 18.
That kind of reminds me. It has nothing to do with it. But a girl that I used to, that I went to high school with, really good friend of mine. Well, okay, let me take that back. I wanted to be friends with her because I was a wannabe popular wannabe. Even though she was younger than me. She ended up becoming Miss Texas. But when she tried out for the Derek Dolls, she was still in high school. And she was definitely a minor, without question. And she wasn't old enough to try out. And I've known some Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders that did the exact same thing.
And did they lie? Did she lie about
No, they tell the truth, but they have to be 18 by the time the season starts. And they don't need consent.
And so was she?
Yeah, she was.
Okay, good.
The other thing was she was the head cheerleader in high school, and then she made the Derek Dolls.
So kids do funny things. Well, we'll be right back after the break. We are Toni, Lynn Collins, and Cheryl Ellsworth Jahani, and we are talking about juvenile law. We'll be right back.
Hey, Montgomery County, it's me, C.C. Holmes. And I would personally like to take this time to invite you, that's right, you, to join me every Saturday and Sunday from 3 until 7 p.m. where I will bring you the very best of smooth jazz, classic jazz, and indeed, yes, the soulful sounds of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So come along and get jazzy with me. That's right, jazzy. Right here, of course, on Conroe's 104.5 and 106.1 FM, or worldwide at irlongstar.com.
Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's radio station with talk, music, weather, and traffic for Montgomery County. Have a question, comment about one of our shows? Want to know how to reach a host?
Just contact the station on irlonestar.com or call in and leave a message at 936-647-3776. Get involved with your community with Lone Star Community Radio.
Welcome back to the Legal Connection with Toni and Cheryl. And today, Toni and I are talking about juvenile law. I just want to tell you, though, I want to remind you that you can listen to us every Tuesday from 12 to 1 on 104.5 or 106.1 on your Conroe FM dial, or you can log in to irlonestar.com and you can listen live, or you can download our podcast on Google Play or iTunes. It's available the following day, Wednesday at 8 a.m., and you can listen to us anytime you want. So, we are talking about juvenile law. We've been talking about children in marriage, and I think this time we want to talk about this segment. We want to talk about what happens when your child breaks the law. Toni, are you ready to talk about what happens when kids break the law?
Almost. Two things that reminded me. My husband listens to our podcast in the
Jim.
operating room.
Hi, Jim.
Hi,
How
Jim.
are you?
Hope
And
you
my
are.
husband, Sam, too. What were you going to say
Yes,
to Jim?
Yes. Hi, Jim. Hi, honey. I love you. And but he
Be
does.
careful.
Yeah, they listen to. They turn on the internet to IR Lone Star.
Right.
And they listen to us live.
Uh-huh.
And he lets me know when I get home if I've laughed hysterically about you breaking your rib or.
Well, you know what Sam does is he downloaded the app on his phone.
Oh.
And so, because he has and my sister Cammie in Colorado listens.
Oh, nice.
Uh-huh. And I don't know if she's got the app.
Three
I think
listeners.
I think, right. But he listens every day, too, so hey,
Okay,
Sam.
I want to finish up a couple more things about marriage before we go on to the other one, just because this is just such a hot topic on some of our listener questions. Yes, to answer, you were correct in your answer, just to make sure I grade your test here.
I forgot the question.
A person, what does a person do if they're 18 and they don't have anybody to consent for them to be married? They can file a petition in district court. Actually, file a petition in district court asking the judge to give them permission to marry. If the judge consents, parental consent isn't necessary. A parent, managing servant, or guardian must be notified of the suit, though, so they can still step in. Now, how does the judge decide whether to permit a child to marry? By determining what's in the best interest of the child. Now, is the law any different for boys and girls regarding marriage? Not at all. That would be against the U.S. and the state constitution. Mm-hmm. If a child between 14 and 17 marries without the legal required consent, what can be done? The marriage can be annulled. Mm-hmm. Parents can come in and actually annul that marriage. And how is a marriage annulled? It's by filing a petition asking the judge to declare the marriage void, and the judge will usually grant it if the kids ran off and got married without parental permission.
Well, that's important to remember.
Yeah, the parents can come back along and they can correct it. So it's take a deep sigh of relief for parents who've got crazy teenagers that run off like, was it Jack and Diane? Mm-hmm. Jack and Diane's parents could have changed that. Mm-hmm. Now, who has the right to file a petition? A parent, marriage considering legal guardian. The child can also file it by having an adult act on his behalf if, like Britney Spears, they change their mind, which I believe is what happened when she filed for her annulment from her marriage in Las Vegas. Even being rich does not shield you from the law. Let's see, is there any time limit for filing a petition to declare the marriage void? Yes. If a child is under the age of 14, if the child under the age of 14 is the person seeking to have his marriage annulled, the petition can't be filed later than 90 days after the child's 14th birthday. If it isn't filed by then, it can never be filed by the child. All right, the child can do it. That's just really bizarre. Mm-hmm. I'm going to read that again because that's bizarre. This is talking about a child having to know law under 14. Mm-hmm. If the child under the age of 14 is the person seeking to have his marriage annulled, the petition can't be filed later than 90 days after the child's 14th birthday.
So in other words, adults or the court has to step in. The kid can't do it anymore.
Right. Only and this sounds like country to me, but I guess it could happen. Mm-hmm. You know, blood brothers or something. I don't know. I just seems so young. I can't even fathom it.
No kidding.
If one parent knew of the marriage but did nothing to have it annulled, can the other parent who learned of the marriage later file to have it annulled? What do you think?
I think they could.
Yes, they can, so long as it's within 90 days of the date the other parent learned of the marriage.
Okay.
So there's a little, you can play with the time frame there a little bit. You can say you didn't know or whatever. I mean, that'd be kind of a lie, but the bottom line is if you've got a divorce situation and one parent knew and consented to it, and then let's say the mother or father found out and they weren't in agreement with it, then that other parent could come forward and file a petition to stop it. All right, which would be, that's a good thing. Parents not necessarily working together, but another parent come to the rescue. Can a child's parent managing, conservator, or legal guardian ever file to annul the marriage of a child who was underage at the time of the marriage but has since turned 18?
I would say no.
That's true. They cannot. Once the child turns 18, the marriage becomes real.
Because they ratify it basically as an adult.
That is exactly right. They've ratified the contract, like in any contract. Once the child turns 18, and if they have not done anything about it, then they've waived their ability to cancel it. Is there a right to a jury trial in a suit to annul the marriage of a child who is underage and married without consent? What do you think?
Well, Texas is different about jury trials, but I'm going to say no because I don't think
That's exactly right. There has to be a fact issue to a jury, and that's not a fact issue. As a matter of law, a judge can decide that.
Okay.
If no one files a suit to annul the underage marriage of a child who married without legal consent, is the marriage a legal one?
If no one files to annul and the child was underage, you mean under the age of 14?
Let me see. I'll read it again. If no one files a suit to annul the underage marriage of a child who married without legal consent, is the marriage a legal one?
I think not.
Yeah.
It is.
Because eventually they'd age out and they turn 18.
Okay.
It's a valid marriage until or unless a judge rules otherwise. So if there is this bad marriage that happened underage and no one does anything legally to change it, then with time it becomes real, even if they're not living together. So you should act on these things. Just don't let it sit and do nothing. Can a child seek to have his marriage annulled for any reason other than age?
Yeah, yes.
Yes. He may use the same grounds for annulment that are available to other adults, and there's 7 reasons.
Incapacity.
Incapacity. I think if you were duped into it.
Fraud.
Believe it or not, fraud is a big one. If the inability to produce children.
Right, that's one.
That's a big one, and I did not know that.
Impotency.
Yeah, impotency.
Which is,
I didn't know that, but if you were wanting to have children and then you found out that your spouse could not, that's the reason for annulment. I think a big one is when guys have had, they're fixed. So
yeah, vasectomies.
Yeah, and they don't tell. Thanks to the guys, and they don't tell the wife, and the wife wants to have kids. That is their, that's the reason for annulment.
Well, right, but the old school term was impotency, which I think, matters.
Oh, this is an
That's
interesting
an old
thing.
school vasectomy, impotency.
What? I was reading about Kathy Lee Gifford.
Oh, yeah?
Did you know that she married Frank Gifford when he was 46 and she was 23?
I knew there was a big age difference, but I didn't realize.
She had her first child when she was 37 and her second at 40. But he was 63 and 66.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
I was listening to her on, she wrote a book about Christianity, and she's very, very religious. Very, very, very good book.
I didn't know
And she said that when she found, Frank Gifford died 2 years ago, when she found him, that he had a smile on his face, and she said she knew he saw Jesus. I just thought that was so funny.
That is so sweet.
Yeah, it is so sweet.
Are you sure it wasn't from all the cosmetic surgery
I think it probably was, but we'd like Kathy Lee to believe whatever she believes.
And she's probably right.
She's probably
I'm just
right.
being facetious. Okay, well, we are here today, Toni, Lynn Collins, and Cheryl Ellsworth Jahani, and we are talking about juvenile law, and we are about to go to break, but we want you to know that you can send us your questions at legalconnectionshow.com. We may even read them on the air, and you can reach out to us at questions at legalconnectionshow.com. We're here to serve you. We want to help you. If you've got any juvenile law situations or any situation, we as attorneys want to be available to you to help you with all of your legal needs. So we will be right back after the break.
Attention movie lovers, The Ticket Stub is a new radio show servicing Montgomery County that is meant for you. The ticket stub is available live every Thursday at noon on FM 104.5 and 106.1, as well as anytime on irlonestar.com. Connor and Dick will let you know what's coming out in the theater, what is worth streaming, and what's going on in the world of film. The Ticket Stub, your home for movie talk.
Our talk shows and music shows are looking for sponsors. Want to expand your brand awareness? Reach the hyper-local audience in Montgomery County? Lone Star Community Radio sponsorships accomplish this. Want to see our stats and rates? Check out irlonestar.com/sponsor for more information. Or call in and leave us a message at 936-647-3776.
Cheryl, Ellsworth, Jahani, and Toni Lynn Collins, and we are here with the Legal Connection radio show, answering your legal questions. We're two Montgomery County attorneys, but I want to tell you before we finish up this section on children and marriage, next week we're going to have a guest. His name is Simon Sequeira, and he is the president of Restore Affordable Water, which is a community organization. It's made up of people in the community, residents, business owners, community leaders, who are now demanding truth and transparency and accountability.
I'm very excited about this segment because
me too.
The water, affordable water. No one has any idea how much that affects you.
Yes.
And he's going to answer a lot of questions for us and give us some insight. I can't wait.
I am so excited about that. So that is going to be next week on the 17th of April, and Simon is going to be here from about 12:30 to 1 with us.
Okay.
So we are here today. Now we're talking about children and marriage. So Toni, let's wrap that children and marriage up. So
okay, I will try. This is just everybody. All the juveniles that I do my Bible study with are like, hey, can you answer this question for me? I'm like, don't even think about it.
Right. Settle down, kid. Read your Bible.
Exactly. Didn't you hear about, I don't know, whatever I said, I try to redirect their mindset. All right. So if a child's parent has been paying child support and the underage child gets married, must the parent continue paying child support?
If the underage child is married, I believe that absolves the parent paying child support from paying child support.
That is exactly right.
They're emancipated.
It is in almost, because now their spouse pays, is supporting them, and that's in almost every divorce decree. So that's a sort of a given. So that's not a reason to marry your kids off, people paying child support.
Right.
Don't get any ideas,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Because you may end up supporting two children.
That's
the two
right.
got married.
Mm-hmm.
Does being married change the age at which a child may vote?
Well, if they're emancipated, considered an adult, I would think that it does.
No.
Really?
You can be married and you still can't vote.
Well,
Crazy.
that's terrible.
Yes. Does being married change the age at which a child may legally operate an automobile?
Well, since the one about voting was no, I'm going to say no.
That is absolutely right. It's not going to change anything. You still have to go through the exact same requirements through the DPS that you would otherwise.
Okay.
Does being married change a child's capacity to enter into a legal contract?
No.
It does.
What?
Yes. This kind of bear in mind, these are all sort of yes and no, but they're listed here to trip us up. Yes. Children who have never married don't have the legal capacity to sign a contract until they are 18. A child of any age who marries acquires more than a spouse. He also acquires the legal capacity to enter a contract, and he can't use his age as a basis for avoiding that contract.
Oh, I see. So
That's
they're
just
trying
insane.
to get them. Well, they're
You
trying to
can't
get them the other
vote.
way. Yeah.
You can't vote,
Right.
but you're bound to a contract.
Well, don't you think that's because children that get married, oftentimes they own or they could be party to contracts for property and things like that, and they don't want them to back out saying that it's invalid because they were...
It makes no sense if they can't vote. If they're old enough to be going to war and to, be doing whatever they're doing while they're married, assuming that's what they're doing.
Right.
Maybe that may have been the reason for it, other than just companionship at that age. Then I would think that they could also vote. And
I would too. I agree with that.
that's kind of crazy.
Kind of arbitrary.
Do a married child's property rights with respect to marriage differ in any way from the property rights of a married adult?
Gosh, I would say no.
Nope, just the same. Once you're married, because you can enter a contract, your property rights are going to be the same. If an underage child is married and then the marriage is annulled, is the law regarding him the same as though he had never been married?
No.
It is.
No. You
Yes.
can't back up.
I'm sorry, yes. It's because an
Really?
annulment means it never happened.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
So, and I know some of actual adults who, after like third marriage, have gotten annulments.
That's a Catholic thing, though. I don't really
No. We're not talking about
understand
that. A marriage in the Catholic Church, an annulment in a Catholic Church is very different from a legal annulment. You can get annulment legally, and the Catholic Church is not recognizing that annulment. You have to go through the Pope for that.
Really?
You got to go up to the higher authority. You know, Pope has a hotline.
Right.
I mean, he's
That's
right there. He's
true.
like,
He
you know,
does.
Dwayne. No,
Right.
was it Bruce Wayne?
Bruce
and
Wayne.
Who's
Mhm.
the butler?
Alfred.
Yeah, he's like Alfred.
Mm-hmm. With the
Pope
red
Alfred. Going back to Pope Brad Pitt or Pope, whatever name we would take. Okay. Not that a
Okay.
girl can ever be a pope. Now, two more questions. If an underage child marries and then gets a divorce before he's 18 years old, is the law regarding him the same as though he had never been married?
Now, you asked me that already, and I answered it wrong. So I would say the right answer is that the law is, he goes back in time. It's as though he had never been married.
No.
What? That's not
Bad
the same
girl.
question?
Bad. No. Annulment means it never happened. Divorce means it did, but it didn't work out.
Oh, right.
Okay, so he's still emancipated. You get married and then divorced, you're emancipated and you have legal capacity. If that's
But
not,
with annulment, you go back in
to
time.
nothing.
To
You
when
go back
were
to
a
a
child.
child, which
Okay.
is insane because the history behind what's happened hasn't changed. Just the legality of it.
Right.
Changed.
It's not intuitive, is
Yeah,
it?
not at all.
Okay, one more question.
All right, fine. Maybe I'll squeeze in two. Once a child of whatever age gets married with legal consent, if the child's marriage ends through death or divorce, does the child require the same legal consent to remarry?
No.
Yes, good answer. If the child was ever legally married, the child may remarry without anyone's legal consent. Not the annulment, but, or death, I guess, death or divorce. Okay, last question. If a child under 17 who is legally married commits a crime, is he tried, and this one's for Ethan, is he tried in juvenile or adult court?
If they're married?
If a child under 17 who is legally married commits a crime, like Bonnie and Clyde,
Mm-hmm.
is he, it says he, but it could be he or she, tried in juvenile or adult court? What do you think?
I would say adult court, just because the laws of being married or whatever.
You would think that they would have legal capacity. No, the juvenile
See, I
marriage
would
law
have agreed.
is crazy. He will be tried in juvenile court just as any other child. Let me read that again. If a child under 17 who is legally married commits a crime, is he tried in juvenile or adult court? You would think because he can make a contract and he can do other things legally that he would be in regular court. Nope. That age is the bright red line. He is tried in juvenile court.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. So that is sort of a segue into the next section
Yes.
that we're going to be talking about juvenile court.
Yes, the child in juvenile court.
Right.
Okay, so first question from our listeners. What are the choices a prosecutor has when filing a case against a child in juvenile court? And this means we're talking any crime. We're going all the way from murder to shoplifting because a crime is a crime. So what do you think? What's that answer?
The choices that they have, well, to try them as a juvenile or as an adult, depending on the crime they committed.
Yeah, that's correct. And I guess the textbook answer is, depending upon the kind of case and the age of the child, a prosecutor can file a petition requesting certification for trial as an adult, which they can never do in Texas under the age of, it was either 10 or 12, but if they're really young, they can't even do it. I think it's 10. So you can't be setting your 10-year-old up to go rob a bank or you could.
Yeah.
10 and under, you could do it if they could pull it off. That's pretty bad, but they'd never be certified as an adult. Gypsies do that. I've watched watching TV about it, which, I don't know if there's even any gypsies around, but I guess there are.
We have them.
Okay. Which I have to look that up, but I'm not sure what a gypsy is. It's not one nation or one group of people. It's just a type of individual in the environment they were brought up in.
Well, I remember, I'm from Dallas, Texas, and I remember when my husband was practicing actually at Methodist downtown then, they had a patient one time that was a gypsy, and a horde of people came and camped out on the front lawn and took chairs from the hospital, broke them up, and started a big fire and caught a deer and killed it and cooked it. No,
what was the family doing outside the hospital? Were they protesting or just living?
No, they were living. It was a group of real gypsies, real gypsies that just came from somewhere.
And, shares, gypsies, tramps, and thieves. That's not what we're talking about.
We hear it from the people of the town, right?
So what did the town do? Did the town come arrest them? What happened?
It was it was Dallas, Texas, and I think they got chased off, but it was a very large group of people, and they just, it's funny, Toni, we don't know about stuff that we're not exposed to.
Yeah. Anyway, the second thing is a determinate sentence in juvenile court. And I do recall this when I was practicing juvenile law. The determinate sentence means that they, and we'll get a little bit more into it, maybe in segment 4 if we don't get through all those, because it's really important. It's a sentence where there's a certain period of time that the child is going to be like, certain things need to happen. They may be in a youth camp, they may be on probation, but there's a certain amount of time that they're going to be watched by the court.
And that's called a determinate sentence?
A determinate sentence, yes. It's just a term of art in juvenile court. Or there can be a trial before the juvenile court with no determinate sentence. And I've actually gone to trial in juvenile court, and it's pretty much the same, even with the jury, as it is in regular district court or county court, except the sentencing is different. And what the range of sentencing is very different in juvenile court. And that kind of went toward, what type of cases are going to be of the type that you consider certifying a child as an adult in juvenile court. I mean, they have to be pretty heinous,
right?
That you would even consider that maybe they, there's a lot of things that go into consideration. And we were talking on the break about Slender Man, and you didn't know about it, but Ethan, what do you recall about Slender Man, since you knew this case, not personally, but you had heard about it?
What do you mean about the character?
What did you know about Slender Man before you, or did you even know about it before this case occurred?
Oh yeah, I knew about Slender Man a long time ago. It was a thing that was posted on this website called Creepypasta, where they post scary stories and everything, and ended up blowing up into a internet thing, and people made games about it. Mm-hmm. But then
and he was just this skinny, ghoulish.
Yeah, he has no face.
It was a phony figure.
No face. He has no face, and he has tentacles, and he's very, very tall and slender, and he takes kids.
And the scary thing is that these 12-year-old girls were on the internet and into it, and decided they needed to make a sacrifice of their best friend.
Toni.
And she didn't know it. They lured her into the woods, and they stabbed her, but she had a will to live, and she crawled out. She was found. She lived. And they, as I recall, this was in Ohio, I think, they were not certified as adults, although they tried to certify them as adults because it was so heinous.
Oh, terrible. Well, I think that we need to do another show on maybe part 4, juvenile court, and also talk about these kids on life without parole, and they're not even adults.
Children in the juvenile system, and when they're certified, and the what happens, because kids just aren't ready for, they don't think straight.
Exactly. They're immature. They're not fully developed. But next week, we're going to have Simon Seguer on. He is the president of Restore Affordable Water, and I'm excited about that. And Toni and I want to remind you that you serve God.
Yes. We serve God by serving each other. That's what this show is about. If you have questions like we've answered today, please ask us. We know how scary this is. We will help you. We'll answer your questions either confidentially offline. If you I think that it's questions at legalconnectionshow.com.
And we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Y'all have a great week.
Thank you for checking out this production of Lone Star Community Radio. Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's community radio station. Don't forget to check out this show and many others across the Lone Star Community Radio Network, either live on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, the Lone Star Internet Radio app, or irlonestar.com's live audio stream, and on replay on podcast, Channel 12's Our City TV in Conroe, or Channel 21 KVQT in Houston, and of course their YouTube channel. This production is copyrighted and all rights are reserved by Lone Star Community Radio. Have a question regarding this program or other Lone Star Community Radio shows? Want to sponsor or start your own show? Call the station message line at 936-647-3673 3776 or email the station at lscrstudios@gmail.com.